I'm calling this the test of finally. Have you ever waited for something a long, long time and finally you got it? Do you remember Abraham and Sarah and how long they waited for, what was the boy's name, the son, when he was finally born to them? The miracle son? Isaac. Do you remember how Genesis chapter 22 verse 1 starts? And then God tested Abraham. The test of finally. Take your son, your only son, whom I know you love greatly, and bring him to the mountain I will show you and sacrifice him there. Now, Abraham knew that that's impossible for a holy God. But he'd heard the message clearly. And he was being tested at the deepest core of his being. That test, as you'll remember, not only shaped his future, but that of Isaac's as well. The test of finally. Hannah. How long did she wait for little Samuel to be born? And finally, in her desperation, God, if you'll give me a son, I'll give him back to you. Moms, how many times have you thought about that? In her case, giving him back meant leaving him at Shiloh at the tabernacle and going back to their home as a little boy just barely weaned. She thought, of course, what better place in the world than for her son to grow up in the tabernacle serving with the high priest Eli. But of course, what she didn't know was the wickedness of Eli's sons with whom little Samuel will grow up. How many times do you suppose when they came back year after year and she heard about the things that were going on, maybe Samuel even told her, she said, oh my goodness, God, I made a great vow to you and I've fulfilled my vow. You blessed me with a son, but what a sewer pot in which my boy is being raised. God, it just isn't right. But God has his hand on Samuel, didn't he? And God was raising up the next great spiritual leader for his people in the sewer pit. The test of finally. Have you waited for something a long, long, long time and finally you got it? What happened next? Did it grab a hold of you and own you? Did you rearrange your schedule to accommodate? My dear Donnie and I lived up in this is SEC country down here, right? We lived up in the Big Ten country. Probably it's the same here as it is there. Finally, you get the coveted season tickets. Oh, man, you've waited a long time. Especially if they're pro teams with the games on Sunday morning. Oh, what do I do? But I've waited so long for this. There's a couple of pro teams, as you know, you can't buy a season ticket. They're inherited in the family. The Green Bay Packers is one of them, as I understand it. So once it's family passed down from parent to child, but Green Bay, like all the NFL teams, plays on Sunday. The test of finally. How's your heart with that? King Hezekiah was one of the greatest kings of all. And then suddenly he fell ill, and God sent the prophet to him saying, get your house in order, you're going to die. Oh, no, God, no. And he cried out. And amazingly, God, before Isaiah even left the courtyard, said, go back and tell him I'm giving him 15 more years. This man who had accomplished so much as a faithful king following his God, his heart turned. He had already had many children, but another son was born during those 15 years. Do you happen to remember the name of that son? Manasseh, the worst of all. And as soon as Daddy Hezekiah was dead and he became king, he turned Israel away from God in an instant. Raised up idols all throughout Jerusalem. Here's my powerful verse that I'd urge you to consider, my dear friends. First, the danger statement. Danger, long-awaited answers can be worshiped, or they can awaken worship as God teaches you. Have you learned that in that long journey of anticipation of something that's out there, God is urging you to develop your patience muscles, and He's wanting to teach you in that long journey? Show me your ways, O Lord. Teach me your path, Psalm 25. Guide me in your truth, for you are God, my Savior, and my hope is in you all day long. Psalm 25. You'll see it on the screen. Show me your ways, O Lord. Teach me your path. Guide me in your truth. You're God, my Savior. My hope is in you all day long. David also wrote, teach me your way, O Lord, and I'll walk in your truth. Give me an undivided heart. So what do I have for finally? I have another card in my pocket. If you were close enough that you could see it, those of you age 65 and older would recognize it. A Medicare card. Finally, if I'm self-employed, I don't have to pay for my own insurance the way I used to. Finally, my employer isn't going to be taking this huge chunk out of my check. Finally. I have a friend who's an over-the-road trucker, and he was self-employed for a long time, and finally, he knew there were several things that weren't right, but he was doing his best, just hold on. A week after he got his card, he was in the doctor's office, and sure enough, they found several things. By God's grace, they were able to help him. What is it for you? You waited a long time. Maybe you prayed for it a long time. Are you worshiping it? Does it own you? Does it control your mind, your heart? Or is it a gift from God and you're thanking Him for it?